Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're looking at Destro's Razorback today. So, Destro's Razorback was first released in the United States in 1989. This includes Wild Boar, the Razorback's driver. It was also sold in 1990 and unfortunately was discontinued in 1991. So, looking here at yojo.com, we do get a version or a look at version 1 of Wild Boar, who was uh, sold exclusively with the Destro Razorback vehicle. All right, and as always, we get to see all the wonderful pictures that yojo.com gives us here. We have a nice front view where you get to see the twin cannons, the laser cannons that we have here, as well as the missiles that are its armament. And we do have a little support here, so we can get about four Cobra Troopers of some sort, or Destro's Iron Grenadiers, on the back of the Razorback, and a nice side view. This had a very interesting take. Instead of trying to, and I'll say it in this form, typically with our tracked vehicles, we will be in a defilade and we will actually kind of move up so that way the cannon can get up and it can fire, and then you kind of sneak back down. You do this so that way you can mimic or limit your profile so you don't get taken out by other tanks. We really did this with our uh, armored personnel carriers, and I'm sure that tanks are doing the same thing. This has a hinge in here, so you could actually hinge this up a little bit more, shoot, and then go back down so you're kind of hidden. So, actually, in a military sense, this would have some kind of benefits to actually function fairly well. The actual mechanicals behind it, I don't know how well that would actually work out, but for an actual military sense, to do what we are currently doing in our military training, and that if we have that availability, it is a possibility. So it's nice to see and look at things in that sense. Yes, there is a purpose for doing this. This is also a wheeled vehicle, so some of the downfalls for the wheeled vehicles are, if your wheels get popped or destroyed or whatever, now you're kind of down. Where typically your treads are a little bit more robust. Doesn't mean that they're not foolproof. They still get destroyed quite often. But there's pros and cons both ways. Uh, the pros for having wheeled vehicles is typically you're talking about a lighter vehicle. You can take it onto a regular roadway without destroying the roadway, and quite often with our wheeled vehicles, we are able to go a little bit faster. We don't govern them down as much. Not saying that we don't at all, but we do limit how much we govern our wheeled vehicles so we can hopefully get them onto highways and so forth, to try and get around. Where our tracked vehicles, we're really looking at taking those more off road, and we're going through the countryside. And we don't want to go too fast because one of the things we don't want to do is have it tip over on us. Okay, so as we get through our pictures here, easily lost or broken pieces, we do have the missiles, the radar tower. The seat belts and bumper are small and easily lost, unfortunately. We do have pictures here of this from the DIC version of G.I. Joe, so this comes from Series 2. We also have some nice artwork that it was included in, as well as one of the arcade video games for G.I. Joe. And last but not least, we also have the commercial spot that it was put into. And we're flipping all the way back. Okay. Um, no known variations from yojo.com are or were produced outside of the initial Razorback. And internationally, in the late 90s, the Razorback was released in India with a random G.I. Joe figure. Additionally, the vehicle itself was made with a slightly lower plastic quality. And then we do have an India box. Now, back in 1989, this sold for $10.49. Again, if you could go back with about $1,000 and just buy up all the old GI Joe vehicles, just leave them in a box, and then see how much it would gain over the years. Because quite often, as kids, we would play with it and lose pieces or demolish it or whatever, which is very fitting for these things. They were meant to be played with, and I guess I still look at it a lot of the same way. I still believe they should be played with, but it is nice being able to see some of these survive all these years. And as always, as we take this and put it into our D6 universe here, uh, we have this at speeder scale. So I've been keeping a lot of these at speeder scale. I put the length roughly about 40 feet. Kind of taking a good guess on that. We're going to have a crew of two for drivers and a gunner of one. So obviously one in the ball turret there. I do have four passengers because the box art did show about four figures standing on the rear bumper there. Cargo capacity, I left that at about 80 kilograms, not really knowing where to really put this at. Let's see, it is ground altitude. Maneuverability, I put this a little bit lower. I think it's going to be another one of those. It's a great design idea, but it might be lacking on some of the maneuverability. Looking at how the hinges are, might just have a little bit of a downfall. So I do have it at a 1D plus 1. Movement, I did keep the movement up here at about 75 miles an hour. Let's see, because I mean, if we have a nice wide wheelbase here, I think we could have a good speed. Body strength is at 3D, so a little bit above our standard, which is 2D. We have the twin heavy blaster cannon, fire linked. This is, of course, on our turret. I gave it a fire control of 2D, and damage is going to be at 8D. Now, we do have 8 missiles. In the GI Joe terms, are considering it surface to surface, but I'm just kind of keeping this more the generic Star Wars style missiles. So this would be fairly comparable to our concussion missiles, and we're going to have a 7D damage with a fire control of 3D plus 1. I upped it because we do have that radar dish on the track or on the vehicle itself. So I figured it's going to add a little bit extra guidance to our missiles. And that kind of rounds out our vehicle. Now, like I said, it does have that hinge in there for stat wise. I don't think it really comes into play, although it is a very interesting take on things um, as things kind of progress on. And this is the second and last Iron Grenadier vehicle that we have for 1989. So as we're kind of wrapping everything up for the 89 series, our next video is going to start taking on to 1990, and we will keep progressing on. So, uh, with everything that I've done, if things don't seem like they fit or you need to add things onto this, by all means, take this and add what you ever need. But I think we do get a good vision of what this vehicle is. It's not something that's overly outstanding outside of its new design concepts. For first and foremost, uh, if you're going to use this as a Iron Grenadier vehicle and your Joes are coming through, they could easily pop up, shoot, and then drop back down without even really having to move the vehicle. So you could be kind of off on like an opposite side of a hill or a ditch or something like that, and you can kind of ambush. And then I would say it would be maybe plus 10 out of the D6 system to try and hit them because now they're going to have that cover. So you're adding that difficulty to try and hit them. Uh, so in that regard, things to think about. Or if you were to take this and put it into take what I've got and re-engineer it into something else, keep that in mind. That's going to be your big bonus. You're going to be able to drop this back down, and it's going to be harder to hit. So, with that, thank you so very much for joining me. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.